So yesterday I learned another lesson while working in my garden, and I wanted to share the story on the podcast here. It was about 7:30 in the morning, and I made myself some green tea, and I went out into the garden. I'm still in my pajamas at this point, and my intention was to water the celery, water the lettuce, water the spinach, and that was pretty much it. Everything else doesn't require as much water, so I'm just going to water these 3 plants. I'm going to sit in the garden for a little look around, watch the birds. It's going to be a gentle, relaxing beginning to my morning, so I thought. So I go outside, and there's a spigot with a valve out by the garden. So the garden is probably, 50 feet away from my house, and there's a water source out there. So I get the watering can because I figure I'm only going to need about 1 watering can worth of water for the areas that I need to water. And I open the valve and I fill the bucket of water, fill the watering can, and it gets to be totally filled up, and the water pressure is very high, so it fills up pretty quickly. So I go to turn off the valve, and I'm spinning it, and I'm spinning it, and I'm spinning it, and the stem in the water valve was stripped. The screw, the function on the inside of the screw was stripped, and the valve wasn't closing. So I'm spinning, and I'm spinning, and I'm spinning, and I'm spinning, and the valve is not closing. And like I said, the water pressure is very high, so I kind of go into a panic of, okay, what am I going to do now? So the water is coming up very heavily, and the area around the spigot is starting to puddle. There's grass and stone there, and it's starting to puddle. So I realize that if I push the valve in, then the water pressure will reduce. And I'm thinking of how I can solve this problem. I'm far away from the main water source in my basement at this point. I would have to run back into the house, and the water's coming out so fast that I don't want to leave it for any amount of time because I don't want it to puddle. So I see very close to me there's something I have is called a rainbird. It's a thing that you put on the spigot, and it can time when the sprinklers go on and off. So it has its own valve in there. So if you were to screw that onto the spigot and the rainbird was shut off, then the water would stop running because it would be capped by this product. So I'm pushing the valve in with my left hand, but the water pressure is so high that it's pushing back, it's resisting, and I'm trying to screw on this rainbird with my right hand to the bottom of the spigot, but the water is coming out so fast that it's pushing the rainbird away, and so I'm trying to now lean my body towards the valve so the weight of my body will hold the valve closed, as I can try to use both of my hands, or at least some fingers from the left hand that I can reach to screw this rainbird to the bottom of the spigot. At this point, there's water spewing up, left, right, down. It's getting all in my face and my eyes. I can't see. I'm still in my pajamas at this point, so now my pajamas are soaked. There's water puddling up below me, so it's getting all over my shoes. So finally, I'm able to keep the valve pushed in, screw the rainbird on, and the water stops. So now I realize I have a broken valve, and I'm not much of a plumber, so I don't really know how to fix this problem. So I call my brother-in-law. Well, I texted him a picture of it, And I said, I think the valve is stripped. What do I do? He called me quick, and I could hear his kids running around. It was like 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. I could hear he's just waking up, and he sounds like he does not want to be dealing with this right now. But he told me what to do. He said, take the entire valve off, bring it to the hardware store, and tell the person that you need to replace the valve. Get some plumber's tape, put it on clockwise, put the new valve on. You should be fine. Okay, I hang up the phone, and then after I hang up the phone, I look back down at this thing and I realize I'm not quite sure I know which part he wants me to unscrew or what I'm really supposed to do. So I kind of just start to wing it, and I undo one part of it. It doesn't feel like it's right. It doesn't sound like that's what he wanted me to do. So I take out my phone and I started YouTubing, and I started looking on Google, and I sort of figure it out as I'm going. Now I have the whole valve removed, and the water is dripping at this point. Even though at this point I've turned the main off in my house, the water is still dripping. So it's not something that I can leave. It's something that I need to fix right now because the water is still dripping out from this valve. So I go down to the hardware store and I get a new valve, and I put the new valve on. I put on the plumber's tape, I screw the valve on, and I turn the main water back on for my house, and it's working. So I can turn the water on and off, and it's not dripping, there's no leaking, there's nothing puddling anymore. So the plumbing issue is fixed. And I share this because there's my intention of what I was planning on happening. So I'm out in my garden at 7:15, 7:30. I think I'm going to fill the watering can and water my lettuce, water my celery, sit on my tree stump out in the garden, drink my tea, watch the birds. This is my plan for how I'm going to start this morning. But then life had a different plan. And cutscene, an hour and a half later, I'm soaking wet. My pajamas are soaking wet. There's water all over my face, my glasses. There's puddles everywhere. My shoes are wet. I'm on YouTube. I'm calling my brother-in-law. It's a totally different outcome as I had planned. And I really started laughing. I'm laughing now, and I was laughing while it was happening because it just goes to show you it's like you have plans for life, and then life has plans. And my intention was to go out and water the garden, and then something else entirely happened. But I laughed because really it was relief. I was feeling relief because I was able to see that life was trying to teach me a lesson. What I mean is, I could take this one of two ways. I can be frustrated that I'm soaking wet, my shoes are wet, there's puddles all over the ground. I had to go spend money. I had to do this plumbing project early in the morning. It's not how I planned my day. But there's also another way I can look at it, and it's that I set out to water my garden, and I learned how to change the valve. And that's a skill that I have now. So if it happens again in the future, which I'm sure it will because the plumbing in my house is pretty old, then if I ever have to change the valve again, it is something I know how to do now. I think that is all under the umbrella of mindfulness. It's a matter of, are you willing to take your teachings wherever you can get them, as Ram Dass would say. He often said, I'll take my teachings wherever I can get them. And for me, there's two teachings here. One, the universe taught me how to change the valve on my plumbing outside, and they also if I'm able to see what's really going on, I'm able to learn another lesson, and that is, I guess, really my attitude. And my intention, maybe? I'm thinking. I guess it's how I receive what happens. You know, I could be frustrated about it, or I can look closer and see what have I learned here. And then I could take both of those skills with me. How to change the valve and how to not get angry at the fact that I'm soaking wet and that I never did get to drink my tea. But that life is trying to teach me something if I'm able to open my eyes and open my heart to it. Okay. Another lesson from the garden. I told you, I said in my recent Instagram post, the garden has become one of my greatest spiritual teachers right now. And it's everywhere. The lessons are everywhere if we're open to seeing them. Okay. Thanks for listening. And if you get a chance, please leave a review on iTunes or whatever platform you listen on. It goes a long way to helping. All right, thank you.